At the very top of a glittering tower in New York, Adrian Lockwood stood before the endless skyline, the city pulsing beneath him like a restless ocean. He was 32, wealthy beyond measure, a man whose name opened doors in every boardroom. Yet behind the polished surface of power and privilege, Adrian carried a hollow that no amount of success could fill. 3 years earlier, tragedy had struck his wife. Isabel had passed away after a long illness, leaving him alone with their only child. From that day forward, his empire had felt more like a prison than a kingdom. His daughter, Lily, just 7 years old, was the heartbeat that kept him moving. With golden curls and the same tender smile her mother once wore, she was both his anchor and his reminder of all he had lost. Every evening, as Adrian returned from yet another negotiation, he found Lily waiting with a question that pierced deeper than any business deal could. "Daddy, are you still sad?" He always smiled, insisting he wasn't when she was near, but the truth was heavier than words allowed. In recent months, Lily's gentle longing had grown stronger. She spoke often of wanting a sister, someone to laugh with when her father worked late, someone to fill the silence of their silence. Vast penthouse halls. Adrian, who had once believed money could provide any solution, now found himself helpless before his daughter's simple wish. No charity gala, no luxury toy, no elite tutor could erase the loneliness in her bright blue eyes. The thought of adoption terrified him. He had already lost one person he loved, and the idea of opening his heart again seemed like inviting fate to strike twice. Yet as he watched Lily sit alone with her stuffed rabbit, speaking to it as though it were her confidant, Adrian realized that her world was shrinking inside the very walls meant to protect her. For the first time, he considered the unthinkable. Welcoming another child, not for the sake of appearances or legacy, but for love. And so, beneath the dazzling glow of Manhattan's night, Adrian Lockwood made a promise to himself. If giving Lily a sister could restore the laughter that once filled their home, he would risk everything to make it happen. The following Saturday, Adrian Lockwood prepared for a day he had been both dreading and hoping for. His longtime assistant, Margaret Hayes, had spent months carefully selecting 5 young girls from the city's orphanages. Children who were bright, talented, and polished enough to step seamlessly into the Lockwood lifestyle. Adrian had given her specific instructions. The child must be adaptable, well-mannered, and capable of thriving in the blaze rarefied air of privilege that Lily had been born into. For Adrian, it wasn't just about fulfilling his daughter's wish. It was about maintaining stability in a world where appearances mattered as much as reality. The penthouse buzzed with quiet preparation. Fresh flowers were arranged in crystal vases, fine china laid out in the dining room, and the playroom restocked with brand new toys that had never been touched. To Adrian, it felt less like welcoming potential family and more like staging a performance. He adjusted his cufflinks nervously as he watched Lily twirl in her pale blue dress, her curls bouncing, her small hands clutching the worn stuffed rabbit. "Refused to part with. Are you ready, sweetheart?" Adrian asked, kneeling to her level. Lily nodded, though her wide blue eyes betrayed uncertainty. "We're really going to pick a sister today." "That's the plan," Adrian replied, trying to keep his tone light. "But remember, it's not about who looks the best or who has the most talents. It's about who feels right to you." Still, he wasn't sure if he believed his own words. Deep down, Adrian wanted this process to be neat, controllable. He wanted Lily to choose one of the carefully prepared girls' children, who would not disrupt their delicate balance. When they arrived at the private office, Margaret had transformed into an elegant sitting room. The 5 candidates were already waiting. Each girl was accompanied by a case worker, their posture straight, their hair neatly styled, their manners impeccable. The room looked like the stage of a recital more than a family introduction. Margaret, ever the efficient host, greeted them warmly. "Mr. Lockwood, Lily, welcome. These are some very special young ladies. Each has been chosen because she possesses not only intelligence and talent, but also the grace to thrive in a family like yours." One by one, the girls were introduced. First was Clara Simmons, 8 years old, who rose gracefully and offered a perfect curtsy. With chestnut hair and emerald green eyes, she spoke fluent French and Mandarin, switching between the 2 languages as effortlessly as if she were reciting nursery rhymes. Then came Isabella Cruz, a ballet prodigy whose pirouettes were so flawless that even Adrian found himself applauding. Her movements carried the elegance of a seasoned performer, though Lily's polite smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Next was Hannah Price, a budding painter whose artwork had already been displayed in a Manhattan gallery. She presented a portfolio of vivid landscapes, each more remarkable than the last. After her came Sophie Lynn, who spoke 5 languages, and was already enrolled in an advanced academic program designed for gifted children. Finally, there was Eleanor Brooks, just 7, but already a piano virtuoso who played a piece by Chopin with such haunting beauty that the room fell silent in awe. Adrian studied Lily closely, waiting for a flicker of excitement, a spark of connection. But, though Lily clapped politely and murmured compliments, her expression remained distant. When Eleanor's final notes faded, Adrian bent down and whispered, "What do you think, darling? Do you feel a connection with any of them?" Lily looked down at her lap, her small hands tightening around her stuffed rabbit. "They're all very nice," she said quietly. "But they don't feel like sisters." Margaret's brow furrowed in surprise. The entire day had been orchestrated for Lily to make her choice, with legal paperwork prepared to move swiftly. Yet here was the child they had tried so hard to please, resisting the options laid before her. Adrian forced a smile and gently squeezed his daughter's hand. "That's all right. We don't have to decide today. We'll think about it." As they left the building, the chauffeur opened the door to their sleek black sedan. Lily climbed in, but her gaze lingered out the window as the car pulled away. Adrian followed her, eyes unfroze. Just beyond the gates of their exclusive condominium, huddled against the iron fence, sat a small figure. A girl, perhaps 8 or 9, with tangled dark hair, and a cardboard sign, resting across her knees. Her clothes were torn, her hands dirty, and her gaze fixed firmly on the meat-stained ground. "Daddy," Lily whispered urgently, tugging at his sleeve. "That girl, who is she?" Adrian shifted uncomfortably. "Just someone asking for help, sweetheart. Don't worry about her." But Lily pressed her face against the glass, studying the girl intently. Her expression softened into something Adrian had not seen all day: recognition, empathy, perhaps even longing. "She's always there," Lily murmured. The words unsettled Adrian. How could his daughter know that? He made a mental note to speak with building security, but before he could ask more, the car turned a corner, and the girl disappeared from sight. Still, Lily's gaze remained glued to the window, as if searching for her. That evening, during dinner in the vast penthouse dining room, Lily barely touched her food. The chandelier glittered above them, the table set with perfection, but the silence between father and daughter was heavier than crystal or gold. "Talk to me, Lily," Adrian urged softly. "What's on your mind?" "The girls today," Lily said, her voice trembling, "they were all perfect. But, Daddy, sisters aren't supposed to be perfect. They're supposed to understand you. And none of them looked at me the way she did." "Who?" Adrian asked, though he already knew. "The girl outside," Lily whispered. "The one with the sign." Adrian's chest tightened. For months, he had tried to shield his daughter from the harsher truths of the world, surrounding her with safety and luxury. Yet, despite his efforts, Lily had found her way to the one place he couldn't control: compassion. And in that moment, Adrian Lockwood realized that no amount of planning could script the choice his daughter had already made. The city slept in shimmering silence, but in the penthouse garden 30 floors above, a little girl was wide awake. Wrapped in a blanket too big for her small shoulders, Lily Lockwood sat on the stone bench where her mother once told her bedtime stories under the stars. The air Haverdaverdashentom was cool, scented faintly with jasmine from the rooftop planters, and the city lights below stretched endlessly like a second sky. Adrian had forbidden her to wander outside alone at night, but Lily couldn't help herself. Ever since her mother, Isabel, had passed away, the garden had become her secret refuge. It was the one place where she felt close to her mother, where she could look at the constellations and imagine Isabel pointing them out just like she used to. But in recent weeks, Lily had discovered something else from that rooftop vantage point. Something her father didn't know. Across the street, at the edge of the park fountain, there was always a girl. She couldn't have been much older than Lily, maybe 8 or 9, but she was nothing like the polished children Adrian had introduced earlier that day. This girl had tangled dark hair and worn-out clothes. At night, she curled up on the stone bench and hugged herself against the cold, her body trembling as she drifted to sleep. Lily had been watching her for weeks. At first, it was curiosity. Why was a girl her age sleeping outside instead of in a warm bed? But as the nights passed, curiosity gave way to something else. She noticed how the girl sometimes woke with a start, whispering into the darkness, as though speaking to someone who wasn't there. She noticed how the girl held a crusting, worn photograph close to her chest, kissing it before closing her eyes again. And strangest of all, the girl seemed to know she was being watched. One night, as Lily leaned over the railing of the rooftop garden, the girl looked up directly at her. For a heartbeat, their eyes met across the impossible distance of 30 stories. Then, with a small, hesitant motion, the girl raised her hand and waved. Lily's breath caught in her throat. Slowly, she waved back. From that moment, an unspoken connection began. Every evening, Lily slipped quietly to the garden, and every evening, the girl was there, as though waiting for her. They never spoke. How could they, separated by so much space? But they communicated in other ways. A wave. A small smile. Once, the girl traced a heart shape in the air with her finger. Another time, she held up her photograph, showing it proudly to the sky, and Lily responded by lifting her stuffed rabbit as if to say, "This is my treasure too." It was a language without words, but it was real, and for Lily, it felt more honest than anything she had experienced in the polished introductions with Clara, Isabella, Hannah, Sophie, or Eleanor. Those girls were talented, perfect, chosen to impress. But this girl, Lucy, wasn't trying to be anything at all. She was simply surviving. And yet, in her eyes, Lily saw something achingly familiar: loss. One night, unable to hold back her secret any longer, Lily approached her father at dinner. The table was set with its usual perfection. Crystal glasses, silver cutlery, plates of salmon, and asparagus prepared by their private chef. But Lily pushed her food around in silence, her thoughts elsewhere. Adrian finally set down his fork. "Talk to me, Lily. What's troubling you?" Lily's small fingers twisted nervously around her napkin. "Daddy. Can I tell you a secret?" "A really big one?" "Of course," Adrian said gently. "You can tell me anything." She drew a shaky breath. "Sometimes, when you're working late in your office, I go to the rooftop garden. I know you said it's dangerous, but I had to. I wanted to see the stars like Mommy used to show me." Adrian's heart clenched. He had avoided that rooftop since Isabel's death, unable to face the memories it carried. "Lily," he whispered, "you shouldn't go out there alone. It's not safe." "I know," she said quickly. "But Daddy, from up there, I can see her. The girl by the wongesandloosen.com fountain. She's always there." Adrian froze. "The homeless girl?" Lily nodded. "Her name is Lucy. I've been watching her, and she's been watching me too. We wave to each other. We talk. In our own way. And Daddy, she's just like me. She lost her mommy too. I can tell." Adrian felt his throat tighten. "How could you possibly know that?" "Because she talks to her picture at night," Lily whispered, tears filling her eyes. "She says, 'Mama, I'm being brave. Mama, I won't forget what you taught me.' That's exactly what I say when I talk to Mommy in my dreams." The silence that followed was heavy. Adrian looked at his daughter, so small, yet carrying a weight of understanding, far beyond her years, and realized she had seen truths he had blinded himself to. While he had buried his grief in work, Lily had been reaching across the darkness, connecting with another soul who carried the same pain. "Is that why you want her as your sister?" he asked quietly. Lily nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "She needs us, Daddy. Really needs us. The other girls today. They were perfect. But they don't need me. They'll find families. Lucy only has us. And I think Mommy would want us to help her. She always said we should take care of people who are hurting." Adrian pulled his daughter into his arms, holding her tightly as emotion swelled in his chest. He had thought he was protecting Lily by shielding her from the world, by surrounding her with safety and perfection. But Lily didn't want perfection. She wanted connection. She wanted to heal, and to help someone else heal too. As he rocked her gently, Adrian realized that his daughter's choice wasn't born of whimsy or childish fantasy. It was born of compassion, of shared loss, of a wisdom that came only from pain. And for the first time, he understood. Lucy wasn't just some girl on the street. She was the mirror of their own grief, the missing piece neither of them knew they were searching for. That night, after Lily had finally fallen asleep, Adrian stepped out onto the rooftop garden for the first time in 3 years. The city sparkled around him, alive and untouchable. Down below, at the fountain, he saw the small figure curled up once more, hugging her photograph. Lucy. And for the first time, he let himself wonder, not as a businessman, not as a billionaire, but, as a father, whether this fragile bond his daughter had discovered could be the very thing that saved them all. The following morning, Adrian Lockwood sat in his mahogany-paneled office, staring at the skyline that stretched endlessly beyond the glass walls. Normally, the view of Central Park calmed him, a reminder of the empire he had built, but today his thoughts were far from business. He couldn't shake the image of the little girl at the fountain, clutching her photograph to her chest, whispering to a mother who was no longer there. Lucy. That night, when Lily had confessed everything, her secret midnight visits to the rooftop, the silent communication between her and the girl, Adrian's world had tilted. His daughter's brosted in daughters. Instinctive compassion was undeniable, but the idea of bringing a homeless child into their carefully guarded lives felt reckless. Still, something in Lily's trembling voice echoed Isabel's own words. Always help those who are hurting. Driven by equal parts fear and curiosity, Adrian made a call he never imagined making. His old friend, Detective Marcus Alvarez, now worked in the NYPD's Missing Persons Unit. If anyone could uncover the truth about this mysterious girl, it was him. Marcus, I need a favor, Adrian said, pacing the length of his office. There's a child, 8 or 9, first name Lucy. No last name. She's been living near my building. My daughter. She's attached to her. I need to know if she's safe. There was a long pause on the other end. Adrian, do you realize what you're asking? You want me to run background on a homeless kid? That's not standard procedure. I know. But this isn't about charity, it's about my daughter. If Lucy is dangerous, if she's hiding something, I have to know. But if she's in need. His voice faltered. I can't turn away. Marcus sighed. All right, I'll ask around. But Adrian, be prepared. Kids on the street are usually there for reasons you may not want to hear. Hours later, when Marcus called back, his voice was grim. Her name is Lucy Morrison. 8 years old. Disappeared from foster care about 6 months ago. Adrian's chest tightened. Foster care? Yeah. Her mother, Dr. Elena Morrison, died in a car accident last winter. Single parent, no father listed on the birth certificate. Lucy was supposed to go to an aunt in California, but the placement was denied. Turns out the aunt had a criminal record for drugs and domestic violence. So, Child Services placed Lucy with the Henderson family in Queens. Adrian gripped the edge of his desk, his knuckles white. And? Marcus's tone hardened. The Hendersons are notorious. Multiple investigations for neglect and emotional abuse, but nothing ever stuck. They take in kids for the money, but don't actually care for them. Lucy vanished from their home 3 months ago. To be honest, no one really looked for her. Just another runaway in the system. Adrian's stomach turned. He pictured the little girl's haunted eyes, the way she flinched even when Lily waved. She hadn't just run away from neglect, she had fled from cruelty. There's more, Marcus continued. You asked if she's connected to anything else. Well, it turns out her mother, Dr. Elena Morrison, wasn't just anyone. She was a pediatric surgeon at Mount Sinai. The name hit Adrian like a blow. Mount Sinai, Isabel's hospital. She worked in the pediatric oncology wing, Marcus said slowly. And according to her colleagues, she performed a surgery that gave one of her patients' mothers an extra 3 months of life. Adrian's throat went dry. Isabel, he whispered. Yes, Marcus confirmed. Your wife. Elena Morrison was the surgeon who operated on her. Adrian sank into his chair, his mind reeling. The coincidences were impossible, yet the truth was undeniable. Lucy wasn't some random child who happened to appear at their gates. She was the daughter of the doctor who had given Adrian and Lily 3 precious months with Isabel. 3 months of stargazing in the garden, of bedtime stories, of whispered promises. And now, that woman's daughter was the child his own daughter wanted as a sister. But the revelations didn't stop there. Adrian, Marcus said softly, I spoke with one of Elena's colleagues. Apparently, she used to tell stories about a little girl who inspired her during that surgery. She called her the brave angel. A child who never cried even when her mother was gravely ill. That child, Adrian, was Lily. The room spun around him. He pressed a hand to his forehead, struggling to take it in. Doctor. Elena Morrison had told Lucy stories about his daughter, about Lily, stories of bravery, of light in the midst of despair. She described your building, your rooftop garden, Marcus continued. That's how Lucy knew where to find you. She wasn't wandering aimlessly. She was looking for Lily, the brave girl her mother spoke of. Adrian's breath caught. He pictured Lucy standing at the fountain, gazing up at the penthouse, as though it were a castle in the clouds. She hadn't chosen that place by chance. She had been following the only map her mother had left her, a story. That evening, when Adrian told Lily what he had learned, her reaction stunned him. She didn't look surprised. She simply nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I knew, she whispered. The first night I saw her, I just knew. Mommy always said angels send us the people we need. Lucy's mommy must have sent her. Adrian gathered his daughter into his arms, overcome by the weight of it all. 2 families, 2 losses, bound together by the fragile thread of one woman's compassion. Elena Morrison had saved Isabel's life for a little while. And now, through Lucy, she had returned that gift in another form. But beneath the wonder was a deeper truth. Lucy had been abandoned by the very system meant to protect her. She had endured cruelty, neglect, and hunger, all while clutching to the memory of her mother's words. Find the brave girl, and you'll never be alone. Now Adrian understood. Lucy hadn't come to them to be rescued. She had come because her mother had taught her to believe. And somehow, miraculously, she had found exactly what she was looking for. As he stood that night in the rooftop garden beside Lily, both of them gazing down at the steeple, small figure by the fountain, Adrian made a silent vow. He would not let Lucy slip away. Again, whatever it cost, however many battles it required, he would honor the bond that had been written long before either of them realized it. Because Lucy Morrison wasn't just another lost child. She was the daughter of the woman who had once saved his family, and now, she might be the one to save them again. Adrian Lockwood had faced hostile boardrooms, ruthless competitors, and crises that threatened billion-dollar empires, but nothing felt as daunting as the battle now before him. He had made his decision. Lucy Morrison would not return to the streets, nor to the Hendersons' twisted version of a home. She would become Lily's sister and his daughter. But the system, he quickly discovered, was built less on compassion and more on bureaucracy. Child Protective Services demanded that Lucy first be returned to state custody. Adoption would require months, even years of assessments, background checks, and endless paperwork. To Adrian, the thought of sending Lucy back, even temporarily, was unthinkable. The girl had finally begun to smile, to eat, to trust. One night, in another foster home could shatter everything she had regained. He hired the best. Margaret Chen, a family law attorney whose reputation in high-profile adoption cases was legendary. Together, they petitioned for emergency custody, arguing that Lucy's medical and psychological needs would be jeopardized if she returned to the Hendersons. But the Hendersons were not about to let go quietly. Days after Lucy moved into the Lockwood penthouse, Robert Henderson filed a complaint, claiming Lucy had stolen money from his house before running away. He painted her as a manipulative child with behavioral issues, unsuitable for adoption. It was a convenient story, and Adrian suspected, one meant to cover something much darker. Detective Marcus Alvarez soon confirmed his suspicions. Adrian, Marcus said during a late-night meeting in the penthouse study, we've been investigating Henderson for months. He's been using foster children as unpaid labor, forcing them to dismantle stolen electronics in his basement. Phones, computers, tablets, anything with valuable components. The kids worked long hours. And Henderson sold the parts through shell companies to make it look legitimate. Adrian's jaw tightened. So Lucy wasn't just escaping neglect. She was escaping slavery. Marcus nodded grimly. Exactly. And the supposed stolen money he accused her of taking? It's a fabrication. Henderson's finances don't add up. He's been laundering money through the electronics trade. Adrian felt rage boiling in his chest, but beneath the anger was something even stronger. Determination. Henderson would never lay a hand on Lucy again. Yet the next blow came from a place Adrian never expected inside his own family. It began innocently enough. Margaret Chen returned from court with an expression that chilled Adrian. There's a new complication, she said, setting a thick file on his desk. Opposition to your adoption petition has been filed by someone with considerable influence. Richard Lockwood. Adrian blinked, stunned. My uncle? Richard Lockwood was more than an uncle. He had been a father figure after Adrian's parents died, guiding him through the early years of business, shaping the empire that Adrian now commanded. But they had grown distant since Richard's retirement, and Adrian had dismissed his uncle's warnings about reckless sentimentality when he first considered adopting Lucy. Richard has submitted testimony, Margaret continued. He claims you're emotionally unstable due to Isabel's death, that your judgment is clouded. He even suggests Lucy is a danger to Lily's well-being. Adrian felt the floor tilt beneath him. That's a lie. Margaret hesitated. There's more. Richard's name has surfaced in connection with one of Henderson's shell companies, Metro Electronics Recycling. It appears Wellington Industries, under contracts approved during Richard's tenure as CEO, has been purchasing components traced back to Henderson's operation. Adrian's blood ran cold. You're saying my company, my family's legacy has been profiting from child labor? Not directly, but yes, through Richard's deals, the business has been entangled in Henderson's scheme for nearly 2 years. And from the correspondence I've seen, Richard knew exactly what was happening. Adrian sank into his chair, memories flashing through his mind, Richard's paternal smile, his reassuring hand on Adrian's shoulder, the countless lessons about power and legacy. And now, the realization that the man he had trusted most was not only complicit in Henderson's crimes, but actively working against him to keep Lucy out of their home. The betrayal cut deeper than any business loss. That evening, Adrian stood at the threshold of Lily's room. Inside, Lily and Lucy lay side by side, whispering secrets only children could share. Lucy clutched her mother's worn photograph. Lily held her stuffed rabbit. Both looked up when Adrian entered, their faces glowing with the fragile hope of belonging. Daddy, Lily asked softly, are they going to take her away? Adrian swallowed hard. Not if I can help it. Lucy's voice was barely a whisper. Mr. Henderson said nobody would ever want me. That I wasn't worth anything. Adrian knelt beside the bed, his heart aching. Lucy, listen to me. You are worth everything. And I don't care what lies Henderson tells. You belong here, with us, and I'll fight anyone who tries to take you away. Her dark eyes filled with tears, but for the first time, she believed him. Later, alone in his study, Adrian called Marcus again. I want every scrap of evidence you can find on Henderson. His finances, his dealings, his connections, and especially his ties to Richard. Marcus didn't hesitate, understood. But Adrian, this won't just be a custody battle. If Richard's involved, we're talking corporate scandal, maybe even federal crimes. Then so be it, Adrian replied. If my uncle has chosen to protect Henderson, he's chosen the bride. Wrong side. I won't sacrifice Lucy or Lily's faith for the sake of appearances. As he hung up, Adrian knew the war ahead would be brutal. Henderson's greed and Richard's betrayal were two sides of the same coin. A system that valued profit over children, power over compassion. But for the first time since Isabel's death, Adrian felt clarity. This fight was no longer about wealth or reputation. It was about justice for Lucy, for Lily, and for the mother who had once told him, always protect those who cannot protect themselves. And he would. Even if it meant tearing down the very empire his uncle had built. The plan was simple on paper, yet fraught with danger in reality. The FBI had been gathering evidence for weeks, but what they needed was a public moment, an undeniable confrontation, that would strip away Richard Lockwood's polished mask. And so, under the watchful eyes of hidden agents, Adrian agreed to stage what looked like an innocent family outing, a picnic in Central Park. On a bright Saturday afternoon, Adrian spread a blanket near Bethesda Fountain, Lily and Lucy beside him. Their laughter was real, though nervous, as they nibbled at sandwiches and played with a deck of cards Lily had insisted on bringing. To passers-by, they looked like any other family enjoying a summer day. But woven into the crowd were nearly 24 FBI agents, each waiting for the signal. At precisely 2 o'clock, Richard Lockwood appeared. He wore an immaculate gray suit. Despite the warmth of the day, flanked by 2 men who looked more like corporate attorneys than hired muscle. Walking reluctantly behind them was Janet Rodriguez from Child Protective Services, clutching a folder as though it were a shield. Hello, Adrian, Richard called. His voice smooth, paternal, almost warm. What a beautiful day for a family gathering. Adrian rose slowly, every muscle taut. Uncle Richard. I didn't expect you to come so publicly. Richard's eyes slid toward Lucy, who shrank back against Lily's side. I've come to collect What belongs to the state? That child. Mrs. Rodriguez has the proper documents for her. Immediate return. Janet hesitated, then stepped forward with visible discomfort. Mr. Lockwood, the court has come and striding. Issued an interim order. We're required to remove Lucy from your custody, pending further review. No. Lucy's voice, though small, rang out with surprising strength. She stood, clutching her mother's photograph in both hands. That's not true. He's lying. He knew who I was all along. He knew my mama. A hush fell over the onlookers nearby. Even the pigeons seemed to pause in their endless circling of the fountain. Richard's face tightened, but he kept his tone carefully measured. Child, you must be mistaken. I've never met you before in my life. Lucy shook her head, her dark eyes blazing with a courage Adrian had never seen. I remember. You came to the Hendersons' house. You gave Mr. Henderson money for the boxes we made in the basement. You asked about me. You told him I looked just like my mama. Gasps rippled through the bystanders. Richard's polished fad cracked for the first time. Nonsense, he said sharply. This girl has been coached. Adrian, you've filled her head with lies to damage me. But Lucy stepped forward, lifting the worn photograph high above her head. You said my mama was a special doctor who once helped your family. You said you were sorry she died. That's how I knew. You knew my mama, Dr. Elena Morrison. You knew she saved Lily's mommy. And still you left me there. Richard froze. His hands trembled just slightly, betraying the panic beneath his words. The FBI agents hidden in the crowd exchanged signals. The evidence they needed was spilling out. In the open. Adrian's voice cut through the tension. How long, Uncle? How long have you been profiting from children's suffering? How long did you know about Lucy, and say nothing? Richard's jaw clenched. I did what was necessary to protect the family business. You don't understand the stakes. Family business? Adrian's voice thundered with rage. Family means protecting children, not exploiting them. Family means honoring Isabel, honoring Dr. Morrison, not destroying everything they stood for. Lucy's voice wavered, but she pressed on. You hurt my mama, too. The night she died, someone came to the hospital looking for her files. The nurse told me. She said it was a man in a suit who claimed to be family. That was you. You were afraid of what she knew. For the first time, Richard faltered. His lips parted as if to protest, but the weight of silence around him was damning. That was when Special Agent Martinez stepped forward, flashing her badge. Richard Lockwood, you are under arrest for racketeering, child endangerment, conspiracy to commit fraud, and obstruction of justice. And based on testimony, you may also face charges related to the suspicious death of Dr. Elena Morrison. The park erupted in murmurs. Parents pulled their children closer. Tourists raised phones to capture the moment. And Richard Lockwood, once the towering figure of Adrian's childhood, stood shackled in handcuffs, his empire crumbling around him. As the FBI led Richard away, Adrian dropped to his knees beside Lucy, who clutched her photograph with trembling hands. You were so brave, he whispered, pulling her into his arms. Lily joined them, wrapping both sister and father in a fierce embrace. And for the first time in years, Adrian felt something he had thought forever lost. The unshakable certainty that his family, broken though it had once been, was whole again. 3 months later, the courtroom was silent as the judge read her decision. Adrian Lockwood sat between Lily and Lucy, holding their hands tightly. By the authority vested in me by the Prosons, State of New York, the judge declared with a warm smile, I hereby recognize Lucy Elena Morrison Lockwood as the legal daughter of Adrian Lockwood, and the legal sister of Lily Lockwood. Tears spilled down Adrian's face as Lucy turned toward him, whispering, Dad. James. The name she had chosen for him, a blend of formality and love. Lily clapped her hands with joy, hugging her new sister fiercely. In that moment, the hollow silence that had haunted the Lockwood penthouse was finally replaced with laughter, belonging, and the promise of laughter. Future built together. That night, under the stars in the rooftop garden, Lucy whispered to the sky, Mama, I found them. Just like you said I would. Adrian pulled both girls close, realizing the truth at last. Family is not about wealth, bloodlines, or perfection. Family is about love, courage, and the green tea. Willingness to protect each other, no matter the cost. This story reminds us that the greatest gift we can give isn't money or status, but the courage to love and the strength to stand for one another. Sometimes, the family we choose is the one that heals us the most. If this touched your heart, leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories about love, resilience, and the power of family. Together, let's spread hope and compassion.